My early days obviously came from my family background because my father, Gerald Mulcahy, was steeped in tradition with Cork GAA. He played hurling and football with Glen Rovers and St. Nick's. Won a good few county medals, championship medals with them. He played at various levels with Cork, minor and junior, and won some All-Irelands there with them as well. So there was always that ambition in the household that hurling was going to be your first love. And I suppose from that time, you take my father and you take school. Went to North Monastery School, had a massive influence there as well, because you nearly went to school every day with your hurley and your gear bag wrapped around the shoulder, and your school bag nearly took second place at times because it was all action, all GAA in school, and fantastic memories. I suppose you have to say family at that stage, because they're the people that got you to the training sessions, maybe got you out of bed early in the morning when some occasions you didn't want to get out of bed, and to go to training and to go and pick you up and bring you to matches. And I credit my father, Gerald, with a lot of that, to be honest with you, because I had two older brothers, I have two sisters, and they were involved in camogie. My older brother played hurling as well. So there was a lot of activity, and it was purely around GAA, So, and there was another person, and if I can name him, is a guy called Paddy Mulcahy. You could call him the father of the Glen and St. Nick's in terms of what he did for guys at very early stages in their career. And I was one of the lucky ones, because we all lived in different directions on the north side, whether you were from Granabraher, Blarney Street, Blackpool, Farnry, all those places at that time were all relevant to Glen Rovers and St. Nick's, because everybody used maybe travelled to matches and training, and there was always an awful lot of activity. And from early days, you had the street leagues, so you were going to street leagues from 7 or 8 years of age. The street leagues were named after some famous men that actually had a lot to play in the part of the history of Blackpool and surrounding areas. I'm talking about Tomás Mulcahy and Terence McSweeney, Joe Lees and stuff like that as well. I mean, just incredible. And but Paddy was the man. And when you got to minor stage and there was other changes in life and you were looking to do other things, and you had a match on Sunday morning, and we used to all meet at the North Cathedral, because that was the meeting point. And Paddy had a minibus, and if there was 2 or 3 didn't arrive, Paddy would take it on himself to head off in the minibus. He'd knock the front door. If you were in bed, he'd nearly come up the stairs to pull you out of bed to get you ready to go to matches. And it did happen to me on a good few occasions, and it did happen to other people as well. So I give an awful lot of credit to Paddy Mulcahy. He was just incredible. The way he looked after, he was a father figure to us all, and the way he looked after us all. A lot of us throughout our younger days, right up to minor level, under 21 level, was just fantastic. Yeah, I suppose everybody will look at Christy Ring in terms of the history of his playing career, and he's 8 All-Ireland medals and what he did for Cork hurling, but like what he did for Glen Rovers as well goes maybe very much unnoticed with a lot of people as well. I never saw Christy Ring play, but I saw whatever video footage I could get my hands on. I just loved it, because the concentration levels that he had were all about skill level. You're putting on the ball off the air, you're striking the ball on the ground, being able to hit it off your right hand, but also being equally able to hit it as good off your left hand. Your free taking, your penalty taking, your positioning, your movement and stuff like that as well. And I was lucky enough, I played with Christy Ring Jr. for a good part of my career. I won a senior county medal with him. I won a Fail and a Whale under 14 medal with him. So for the earlier parts of his career, Christy Senior used to be at a lot of the matches. So you would get the day when he'd call you after the game and he'd have a word in your ear and say, maybe you should look at doing something different, or maybe you should concentrate on something like that. But it was all positivity, great advice. And I got to know the man particularly well, because when he attended most matches, you go to meet him. And for us as young guys, all we were hearing about this star, that was so good for Cork hurling. And, I did a recent kind of podcast with a couple of members of my club in terms of his 100th anniversary, and like people are saying Glen Rovers played St. Vincent's in Croke Park one day in a challenge match, and there was over 26,000 people at the game, and the majority of the people went to see Christy Ring play. So they followed him everywhere, from Thurles to Páirc Uí Chaoimh to Limerick to Croke Park, and in massive numbers, just to see the quality of this guy. So he had a massive influence in Glen Rovers, and I think we take a lot of pride in what he achieved and the success levels that he had. The other man in question was my hero growing up, Jack Lynch. I just loved the charisma with the man. I just loved everything about him. From the politician, I remember when he became Taoiseach, I think in 76 or 77, he arrived in Blackpool to masses of thousands to welcome him when he became Taoiseach. And he appeared, and I kind of remember seeing John F. Kennedy in the States doing something similar. And this guy came in an open top car. He had Christy Ring alongside him, and he coming through the streets of Blackpool, and people were waving at him. And it was just a fantastic memory. So I just loved that man from the early stages. But again, luckily enough, I was lucky to meet him then throughout my playing career. We were lucky to win the county title in 1989 with Glen Rovers. I was captain of the team. So part of the process when we won the county was that there would be a parade to Blackpool on an open top bus. We would leave the city at a certain time, and that was 1989. Christy Ring Bridge, we had to take the cup over Christy Ring Bridge, which is just outside the Opera House. So as we go to proceed over the Christy Ring Bridge, there is Jack Lynch waiting to greet us. And we have some unbelievable photographs of that. Great memories. Came to the club afterwards, met us in the club, and we had a couple of drinks with him, and just he used charisma and style. But he was an unbelievable player, and his success on the field of play, hurling and football, maybe goes unnoticed a bit of time as well. He was a stylish hurler, very good footballer, and massive pride in Blackpool for that name, Jack Lynch, as well as Christy Ring. And I suppose I was lucky enough after 89 and 1990 to go to Croke Park and captain the team on All-Ireland Final day. And another abiding memory is, I suppose, when I collected the cup on the steps of the Hogan stand. My probably biggest regret now when I look back at it, 3 steps back or 3 seats back, there was Jack Lynch standing, and he gave me the thumbs up. And maybe I should have brought him down to the podium and maybe got a couple of photographs with him alongside me, because I did meet him afterwards at the banquet. And but I suppose the most impressive moment that I ever had was on his funeral day, because he got a state funeral in Cork. The funeral mass was in the North Cathedral. It was like getting into Croke Park and All-Ireland Final day. Tickets were a premium to get a seat in the church. But I did manage to get in there, and some famous figures from all over the country and even outside the country were present. And it was a state funeral, and our club, Glen Rovers and St. Nick's, were anxious to do something in terms of our younger generation, tag out in their gear, maybe give them a guard of honour outside the church. But it was refused for some reason or other, because it was a state funeral. But I do remember when I came out afterwards, and I had met them a few times, 2 of Jack Lynch's bodyguards came to me and they said, "Would you like to go to the cemetery?" I said I would. So I said, "Come on, you can come with us in the state car." And I was only about the 4th car back on my own with the 2 lads as we headed down Mulgrave Road. On either side of the road, there was crowds, and it was very, very strong voices singing "The Banks of My Own Lovely Lee." It was a fitting tribute all the way down. And as we came to the Christy Ring Bridge, it was just incredible to see that somebody in Glen Rovers wouldn't accept the decision to say we can't have a guard of honour, because they had all the kids lined all the way along the street, tagged out in their gear. And I seen the second car, which was Maureen Lynch, stopping the whole cortege, and she gets out and she shakes the hands of everybody and got back into the car again. Those types of days that are all will stick in your mind, And like we went on, and the cortege went over Patrick's Bridge, it went all the way down through Patrick Street and the crowds all the way out to St. Finbarr Cemetery. I was just blown away by this. Here I am, lucky to be inside in the car, looking out at these people, and they all flag waving or clapping or singing and stuff like that. Just a massive tribute to a wonderful guy. I played Harty Cup hurling with Knott Monastery, and like we had an incredible team back there in 1980. We won the Harty Cup. We won All-Ireland Colleges. We won the Fruin Cup, which would the Dean Ryan Cup, which would be kind of the junior hurling tournament. We 13 of the Harty Cup team still underage for that, which I was included of as well. We played Fruin Cup football, and we won that as well. The only competition that we didn't play in at the time was Munster Senior Colleges football. But I always kind of remark, if we took part in that as well, we'd have won that as well, even though some of the guys maybe on the south side of the city wouldn't agree with that. But we had some seriously talented players, and like Paul O'Connor, God rest him, Tony O'Sullivan. We had just incredible players. So the follow on from that, when you had that bit of success at school level, obviously Cork Minor was on the radar. Cork Minor selectors were looking at you. So I played Cork Minor for 2 years, hurling without any success in 1980 and 81. I suppose my big day out came in 1982. I was still very, very young, but I came on as a sub in the 1982 All-Ireland Under-21 final against Galway above and Burr. And kind of reminding moments of that, right? In terms of we stayed in a dormitory the night before the match above in Burr before the All-Ireland series, right? And like, because it was a fair distance, and like, we were never lost for anything when it came to travel arrangements with Cork and stuff like that, because I mean, you meet at St. Patrick's Church and there could be a Daimler car, which is like a big funeral car. There could be an 8-seater Merc. There could be 7-seater Peugeots turn up to take everybody. And like, we were really privileged to be heading up the road to an All-Ireland Final in 1982, and you're in the back seat of one of these and the crack is mighty. But one memory from that was on the kind of the night before the match. The selectors were great characters, particularly Jimmy O'Grady and Teddy Manny, who kind of in charge of the team. And well, they were known for the couple of sing songs and a couple of pints and stuff like that. So when we were trying to go to bed and go to sleep, these guys went off for a few pints and came back to the dormitory afterwards, and they started a bit of a sing song. So I'm not so sure you'd get away with that in the modern day, but it did us no harm. We went on afterwards to beat Galway in the All-Ireland Final, so there was nobody spoken anything bad about that. Everybody thought it was absolutely fantastic. Following 1982 then, my opportunity came in 1983. I was still under 21 and played in a championship match in Páirc Uí Chaoimh against Waterford, and played particularly well. So afterwards, I was approached by one of the Cork senior hurling selectors, and the manager at the time was Johnny Clifford, and he was from my own club, Glen Rovers, and he said to us, Cork play a challenge match on Sunday evening, a senior hurling challenge match in Kinsale in the Jack Barrett Field. And we'd like you to come along, and we want to give you an opportunity to see could you make some bit of inroads into the senior panel. So that was my first senior debut in a challenge match against Waterford below there. And I suppose the big memory is you're walking into the dressing room, and here you are, a little skinny boy from the north side of the city, and could still be in short pants, and you're going in and there's a dressing room with Jimmy Barry Murphy, Shawnee O'Leary, Tim Crowley, Johnny Crowley, Tom Cashman, Dermot McCurtain, all famous household names within Cork hurling GAA from Trina Row days, 76, 77, 78, you know. So here I am, the boy in the corner, but I must say, I got on very, very well. They took very kindly to me to being there, and I played particularly well on the night of the match. So I was included in the panel then for the Munster Championship campaign. So that was the first introduction to Cork senior hurling. It was easy to kind of gel into the team and get into the game when you had the quality of Jimmy Barry Murphy in full forward, Sean O'Leary in the other corner, maybe I'm one corner, and then you had Timmy Crowley centre forward, Tony O'Sullivan and Kevin Hennessy, all famous household names. So look, I think from early days, that team Cork were after coming back on the loss of 1982 All-Ireland Final against Kilkenny. We wanted to make up for it in 1983. It didn't work out that way because we lost to Kilkenny in 83 as well. So, but we were gelling together as a serious team, as a serious outfit, and we were going to create our own bit of history in terms of our own playing career with Cork from then on. The first time I ever visited Cork Park Stadium, I think it was, I might have been at one of the 3-in-a-row matches with my father, right? But I'm not very clear on that. But I think the first obvious one is an All-Ireland semi-final appearance in 1983 when I played against Galway. And it was the old Cork Park then. Your dressing rooms were at the far end. Yeah, it was a daunting experience, right? I was 19 years of age, right? So it was brilliant to be there. The one thing that I liked about the whole thing was that there was a big determination within Cork, having lost in 82, to win again in 83, or even to get to an All-Ireland final in 83. And I think that was a massive achievement in itself. I played in the All-Ireland semi-final. I'd come on in the Munster campaign against Limerick in Páirc Uí Chaoimh in the championship for my debut, and then I got my place in the All-Ireland semi-final, and I did particularly well and held my place for the final. So, but it's some baptism of fire. I mean, people got to experience like what is it like to run out in Croke Park in All-Ireland Final Day. I think the attendance that time in 83 was about 63,000 people. You know, that was the max capacity. But even still, and it's something that I just love to see maybe come back to the GAA at some stage, right? It was, your warm-up was never done on the field. You were in the dressing room to the very last minute. Your warm-up was actually done in the dressing room, believe it or not, before the match. You were running on the spot. You were blowing into your hands to try and keep warm. You were doing your stretches inside there. You might have had a puck around on the way to the venue prior to that on the given Sunday morning, and you did most of your warming up there. But that was it. So when it came to time to go to the field, it was very close to throwing time. You had a full stadium. So you're running out that tunnel, and the captain is taking you out when you leave that door at fair pace. And you're nearly bursting out through the door at that stage to get out onto the field of play. The nerves are there. There'd be something wrong if there weren't. And you're bursting to get out. But when you get out, and there's a little tunnel that took you out onto the Croke Park field, the roar of the crowd, just incredible. And you sometimes, I think we miss that in the GAA as it is at the moment, because teams are out maybe 40 minutes before they throw in and stuff like that as well. And like, Kirby fought or Fern Corky, like it comes out over the tannoy, comes out of the announcement that people are buzzing, waiting for this, you know. And that's one of the first memories that I had. This was a special place to be in. The key thing for us from Cork, when you were coming from Cork and you got to an All-Ireland semi-final, you got to an All-Ireland final, was tradition that you go up on a Saturday, and you'd go on by train on a Saturday afternoon. Everybody would meet, right? And look, I'm saying this, and I'm sure it was the same as everybody else. You wake up early Saturday morning, and it's All-Ireland final weekend. All you want to do is get out of the house, because there's well-wishers coming, there's people looking for tickets, there's this, there's that, and all you want to do is go meet the guys that have been training for the last couple of weeks. Go meet the guys, be together as a group. So when you get to Kent Station, everybody's there. The journey on the train is just fantastic. Bit of crack, playing a bit of cards and stuff like that. But Cork always stayed in the Burlington Hotel, and on the Saturday night, prior to an All-Ireland final or an All-Ireland semi-final. So getting there, the hotel had a lot of rooms. It could have 400 or 500 rooms at that stage. Was traditionally booked out by Cork people. It became the Cork Hotel. It became the Cork Zone. It became Cork Mania. And so when you get to the hotel, there's people waiting outside as the bus arrives. When it takes you from the train station, you get in, you get your room, everything is allocated, everything is done. You come down, maybe have a pre-match meal. But the Saturday night can be a long night. So what do you do on the Saturday night? So we had a couple of guys, when I played, they were mad into greyhounds, none other than Jimmy Barry Murphy. So we all knew where Jimmy was heading on a Saturday night. He was heading to Shelbourne Park. So Some of them people might have went to the pictures, some of them people might have went for a walk, but there was a core maybe of 10 or 12 of us would head to Shelburne Park with Jimmy as well. Taxis would pull up, all into a taxi off to Shelburne Park. Passes were arranged. So you're at the greyhounds track for the night, watching dog racing that none of us would know the head from the tail. And we were like, you know, Jimmy Barry Murphy was kind of telling us on a couple of occasions, like, you know, Jimmy, what dog will be back in this race? And he'd tell you before you're looking at the program, back the black dog. And then they come out into the parade ring and there's 3 black dogs in the race there. And Jimmy's gone. He's disappeared. Right. So we're left in no man's land. But you had a bit of banter and you had a bit of crack. And but it passed away the night and you met a lot of people outside there and it kind of chilled us out a little bit. And, you know, and then on the way back, there was a curfew to be back at the hotel at a certain time, get your pint of milk, get your pint of biscuit or a couple of biscuits and head to bed. But people probably wouldn't realise this, but there was 5 or 6 of us and we would stop off on the way to the Burlington and we'd call into a local pub and we'd have 2 pints a man. And the crack and the laughter and like our team doctor used to be there, Dr. Con Murphy. I'm not going to name everybody that was there, but everybody, like, it just kind of relaxed us. But we were back in the hotel at 10:30. We didn't mix with the crowd that was in the hotel at that stage, and it used to be absolutely jointed, queues outside to get in. So it was straight in, upstairs to the meeting room, have your pint of milk, your couple of biscuits, and off into bed. And that was the Saturday night. Sunday morning, then you get up early, or you get up for breakfast. You go and maybe read the papers. Some people stay away from the papers because you might have done a press interview during the week and you're afraid of your life, what the headlines are going to be in the middle page of the Sunday Tribune or the Sunday Independent or whatever paper was that day, because you don't know what people were going to say about you. So, and then we'd head off for a little puck around out the road, maybe out to UCD or some field not too far away. And we'd have a little pre-match puck around there, back to the hotel, get all our gear organised, get everything done. And then you start the journey to Croke Park, get on the team bus. And like their memories, like you're coming out of your team hotel and the lobby is jointed. And they're giving you a round of applause before you even get to the match, and you're going on the bus and like you're heading down into the centre of Dublin, and you might go down the road at that stage because there was no other way to get to Croke Park but go down O'Connell Street and all the way up that side, and the throngs of people and the buses and the trains that arrived, everybody was walking the streets. And once they spotted the team bus, because you probably had a police escort and stuff like that, it was just mental stuff, you know. So, and a couple of occasions we did have Canon O'Brien, who was with us in 1990, tried to kind of take the pressure off with one of our famous sons of Cork GAA, John Keith Cronin, who was a masseur. John would be told by the Canon, up you go now into the middle of the bus and start to sing song. So he'd sing the Banks, and then the Canon might have a couple of cassettes himself, and it could be the Wolf Tones playing We're on the One Road, and everybody was singing and shouting and roaring and stuff like that as well. And maybe calm the little thing down, because like your pre-match is a long day from the time you get up in the morning to 3:30 throw-in. There's a lot of time and there's a big gap to be filled. So, and it does build up a bit of tension in guys. And so getting to Croke Park, once we get to Croke Park then, and there's a minor match playing, you can sit in and maybe watch a bit of the minor match, and then it comes time to go to dressing room and time to get tugged off and get ready for the game. Amazing memories, just, you know, I mean, there's a lot of people out there have been in that position, and I'm sure they're saying the same thing as me. But there are a lot of people out there that didn't get that opportunity and probably wondering what did it feel like. I think I'm giving a good reflection on that. As against the modern era now, we didn't have as many tactics back then. There was maybe you probably had a team meeting in the hotel before you came, so there was very little said after that or done after that. Everybody was left to his own devices in terms of his own preparation. Some guys just sat in the corner, head between the knees, and you know that they're getting in the zone themselves. Some guys had a hurley and a slitter in their hand, and they're beating the ball off the wall inside in the Croke Park dressing room. And knocking over bottles and maybe knocking over tables, but that was their way of getting into it. And what I think the key for us was just to get to the dressing room in a time that you know you weren't going to be long there, and then that you were going to get to the field, because there were very tight dressing rooms in Croke Park at that time. You didn't have any pre-training area that you can go to outside the dressing room. You didn't have any warm-up area, anything like that. You had a dressing room, you had a shower and the toilets, and that was it. And it was very, very compact. And if you're carrying big numbers and everybody's in there together, the last place you want to be is in that dressing room. Time to get out, time to move everybody out. And look, it did come to a stage, I suppose, when you're there on a few occasions, that if there was too many people inside there, the manager would take the call and people have to leave, and people in the background, it's time to go, just leave the team, the subs, and us as selectors there. And then we'd have our own little circle, we'd have our own little moment, we'd have our own little inspiration. And look, we had some incredible guys that I was lucky to be involved in terms of Johnny Clifford. He was one of the best coaches that you come across, and he had played the game so many times himself. Great history with Cork himself and my club, Glen Rovers, as well. And look, they always had the final say. Then you had Canon O'Brien, which was, look, he was just a legendary figure as well. And look, his pre-match talks will go down in history. His halftime talks will go down in history for anybody that was involved with him as a team, whether it was senior or minor or under 21. But for me, on the occasion that I was there with him, his pre-match and halftime were inspirational. And there were certain times when we were in the dressing room at halftime when we were in trouble, and there's only one man got us back and got us right and got us to focus. And he knew how to touch people, and he knew how to touch the nerve of people, and he knew how to get inside the heads of guys. He knew how guys would react, because he'd seen a lot of these guys being there before. He had them as minors. He had them in school with Hurling Cup teams. He has them under 21s. He had them at club, because he managed a lot of clubs in Cork as well. So he knew these guys had produced it before, and he was the best man to get the best out of individuals. And certainly 1990 is a famous occasion. For myself personally, what I would have done again would have been, I would have been relatively calm in the dressing room. When I became captain of the team, maybe an extra responsibility, maybe to go around and maybe give everybody a slap in the back, shake their hand, wish them the best of luck. But if you weren't the captain, you just focused on yourself. And I was calm enough, to be honest with you. I could sit in the corner, have a bit of crack, have a bit of laugh and a bit of fun. And look, sometimes a team, you need characters in the team as well that can actually quell the tension. And look, there was a guy called Kevin Hennessy, and I have to mention, a great friend of mine, a great friend to all in Cork GAA, and he was an inspirational guy in the dressing room. Just incredible, because the laugh and the jokes and the slagging, and he'd slag about the paper in the morning, who was ever quoted or had an article. He had no fear of Frank Murphy as county secretary, no fear of Dr. Conn. They were always hopping off each other. He could say anything to anybody. But it also, we brought a smile to our face, and it brought a bit of crack to our face as well. And some of these stories are just incredible, And like, if I could go into 1990, right, the famous one is like a halftime, we were 5 points down against Galway. We were in a bad way. We hadn't played well, including myself. I was captain of the team, and we're in the dressing room, and like the cannon calls 3 guys, you, and you, out to the shower area. So out they go, take off your shirts, and 3 ice cold buckets of water lined up. Threw the 3 buckets of water into guys' faces. Said, this time that you woke up, you're asleep out there. And we're inside the dressing room knowing this is going on, and they were shouting and roaring and stuff like that as well. And the guys came back in to dry themselves off, and then he brought us all into a huddle, and he says, really disappointed with the first half performance. You've left yourselves down, you've left your county down, but more importantly, you've left me down, your coach, you've left me down. There is only 3 guys out there, he says, that are worth their salt in that first half of that match. And Kevin Hennessy, very quick, put up his hand, and he says, can you tell me who are the other 2? Now, Kevin had a shocking first half himself, But you had to giggle and you had to laugh, and right, it broke everything. And that is gospel truth. And people might say, I'm waffling about this. That actually happened. And like, it set the tone for the second half of the game. It was just incredible. And like, over that period of time with the guys that we had just characters like that, leaders, Jimmy Barry Murphy, Tony O'Sullivan, Tom Cashman, Jim Cashman, Teddy McCarthy when he came into the scene, Dennis Walsh, Sean Gorman. Like, they were all brilliant guys, and they all had their own strengths, and they could all bring that to the dressing room as well. It wasn't maybe just about one individual, which was super memories. When you run out onto the field of play, all you want to do is get your hand in the sliotar and start putting the ball in towards the goal. If you're a forward, or if you're a defender, come back in towards the goal line and start putting balls out the field. You know, you forget about the crowd at that stage, even though you are encased by mass numbers and stuff like that. Look, you're in the zone then, and it's all about performance. It's all about winning the game, and you have to put that to the back of your mind. You have to put that to the back of your head and start concentration. And like, we didn't have cones for drills those days, right? You know, we didn't have any of the mod cons that the modern setup would have, poles or anything like that. So, or was you were maybe at one side of the field or one end line, and the player was outside, and you were popping the ball back and forth, or then they might throw a couple of dozen balls, and you would go around the field, pick it, and throw it over the bar, and just get a couple of shots at goal and stuff like that. So, and it was very, very quick. You probably had 7 or 8 minutes of this before the ball was actually thrown in, because you had a parade to go through and stuff like that as well. And like, the parades were just incredible as well. I mean, your first one, I had in '83 to my last day. You remember, you'll never forget it, because when you go and behind the RTM Boys Band, it's like they're famous in their own right for what they do on All-Ireland Final Day. And to be part of it, to go behind them and to march, and you take in nearly the full field at that stage. You're passing the opposition supporters, and you're maybe their team that the opposition. It could be Kilkenny, or it could be Galway. They're on the outside of you or on the inside of it. They're all standing up from the stand. They're all waving their flags. They're all cheering. You're probably then in a situation where you might be looking out for family members and stuff like that to see where they are in the stand as well, right? You know, but you have to go around and maybe go around to Hill 16. If Cork have taken over Hill 16 for the day, you have every colour red and white flag that you could actually get, right? You have every character that ever went to a match all inside in Hill 16, and people always say that's the place to be. That's where you get the banter. That's where nobody's safe inside there when it comes to match day, because the names and the slagging and what they'd be calling you if you did something wrong was just incredible by all accounts, right? You know. So, but to pass that on All-Ireland Final Day, getting ready for throwing, it's great memories, just great memories. Well, 1984, maybe people overlook the importance of 1984 as an occasion, because it was a centenary year for GAA. So the centenary final was held in Thurles, which was an incredible occasion. People around the country say it was our famous home, going to Thurles. Cork loved to play in Thurles rather than playing in even the home advantage in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, because we just always played particularly well there. But 1984 was unreal, because it came on the back of losing our Ireland finals in '82 and '83. It came on the back of people. We got a lot of criticism in Cork to say people that have been there for a period of time, maybe from the 3 in a row time of 76, 77, 78, maybe we're gone past their sell-by date. Maybe this should have been changes. Maybe this shouldn't have happened the way it happened. And but we got to the final in 1984. So it was just an incredible build up to this, because there was so much made of it, and the press and the media and the importance and the history that was attached to it. But like, memories of that day are incredible, because we didn't travel on Saturday night, but we travelled on the Sunday morning. And I mentioned previously about the famous Archdeacon and the Canon. He was Canon O'Brien, or Father O'Brien at that stage in '84, and he was the coach of our team. But like, there was a lot of pressure in Cork, an awful lot of pressure, because to lose 3 in a row would be for Cork GAA would have been unheard of. It just couldn't happen. So he was trying to isolate us away from everybody. He was trying to actually say, we're not going up the night before. We're not going to put that pressure on the team. So we'll travel up. We go up by train on a Sunday morning. There's a bus to pick us up. And everybody thought we were going to our team hotel, which was normally the Anna Hotel in Thurles. But you wouldn't even get into the car parking there because there'd be so many people around there. So he said, that's not going to happen. And as we went down the square in Thurles, the bus took a little left turn to these big gates that were closed up in an archway. And the bus pulled up outside. The bus driver got out, gave a knock at the door, and these two gates were opened. And there was two nuns with red and white hats on them. And this was our meeting point for the day. This was our meeting point for the match. We were going into the nuns' convent in Thurles, where they had our pre-match meal prepared, where they were told under no circumstances, if anybody arrives at that door, were to be left in, right? This was just for the team, backroom team, isolated away. Inside here, walking around the gardens inside, they had the flags, everything up. And the story goes that the chairman of the Cork County Board was told very late where the team was going, and he arrived at that doors and they wouldn't let him in. He was actually stopped from going in. Dennis Conroy was the man at the time, and I can tell you he wasn't a happy camper after it, right? So he had to turn and go away. And that was a piece of genius by the man, because we were just together, we were focused, and when we went to go to Thurles for the final, going up the square, and the thousands of people that had gathered, because that was a major gathering point for everybody, Cork and Offaly and neutrals. Every place was packed out the door. You had to pass through. Oh my God, that was some feeling, but I think that gave us some inspiration to go and make sure we didn't go and lose that match in '84. And the team played unbelievably well. Some great performances that day by Sean O'Leary, Tony O'Sullivan, Kevin Hensey, Jimmy Barry Murphy, Johnny Crowley back in defence, goalkeeper Joe Cunningham. Just incredible performance. And I think we deserved to get our All-Ireland final that day. And we did go back to the convent on Monday morning for 10 o'clock mass, every one of the team, because we really enjoyed the experience there on the Sunday. So the canon said, lads, I'm having mass. I'm going back to the convent. And John Finton, the captain, if you were in bed still, he insisted everybody get up, and everybody went back there. And we had a great morning there as well before we went on our onward journey back to Cork. Johnny Clifford was coach in 1986, and again the same routine like previously. Go up on the Saturday, go to Dublin on the Saturday by train, stay in the Burrington Hotel, go to the Dogs, have the one or two little sherbets before you go to bed. And looking at it then, I suppose, look, we were rank outsiders against Galway in 1986. There had been a lot said and mentioned in the press to us, right, you know, because we played Antrim in the All-Ireland semi-final in 1986, and we struggled to beat them. Only for we getting, I think, 5 goals on the day, and an unbelievable performance by Joe Cunningham on goal to save many Antrim goals. It could have been some surprise that Antrim might have beaten us in an All-Ireland semi-final, but we prevailed. So we were heading back down the train after the All-Ireland semi-final, and the result was coming in from Thurles that Galway had beaten Kilkenny in the other semi-final. So it was going to be Cork Galway All-Ireland final. So Johnny Clifford had been there in the past in terms of a manager and of losing teams. So I think there was a lot of pressure on Johnny to show his merit as a manager, as a coach, to say we're not going to lose this one. We won in '84. We lost the All-Ireland semi-final in '85 to Galway. We could have our own gripes in Cork about that. An unbelievably bad day that we lost. We were missing Jimmy Barry Murphy that day as well, which caused us great harm, I suppose. And so we were close enough, right? You know, this team had a special bond that you were in All-Ireland Final in 82, you were there in 83, you were there in 84 winners, you lost an All-Ireland semi-final in 85, and you were back again in 1986 to an All-Ireland final. So there was a lot of experience in the group, and there was a lot of newcomers came into the equation as well. And but look, it was again an incredible day, because it was a very high scoring freestyle game. I don't know, it was a 5-15 to 4-13, I think, or something like that. The score was. It was a remarkable game, and chances are either end. And look, we had again incredible performances. But the one abiding memory, and I give Johnny Clifford the credit on this, was when we were travelling back on the train after the All-Ireland semi-final, we had heard that Cyril Farrell and his Galway management had actually brought a new tactic into play, where he adopted a 3-man midfield. So he brought a corner to midfield and created an extra man in the middle of the field, and that caught Kilkenny unawares and did an awful lot of damage. So the question on the train as we were heading to Cork, Johnny, what are we going to do All-Ireland Final day if Galway adopt the same approach and they bring the corner forward out and he goes to a 3-man midfield? Johnny Clifford was very, very clear. Lads, I will worry about that, but I will tell you straight now, get into your heads, we'll be playing 15 against 15 in our positions. I don't care where they go, but our 3 full-back lines, our 3 full-backs will be staying in their position. Right cornerback, full-back, left cornerback. You will not be going out to chase your man, to go to midfield, to create an extra space inside for maybe star performers that they had inside and good, very good fast players. So when it came to the dinner match, that's exactly what happened. Galway went to a 3-man midfield. Johnny Crowley was the spare man at left cornerback. So you're waiting at your gig on a Sunday night after you win, and RT are announcing the Sunday game with a man of the match. And who gets RT Sunday game man of the match? None other than Johnny Crowley. So Johnny Clifford was a magician. He was a magician because it worked to a treat. Galway were putting the ball into the areas where Johnny was free, and he picked it up and he mopped it up, and he had a brilliant performance. So we were just glad to get that one as well. You know, I know Galway would have been disappointed because they probably had lost in 85 as well, and they had lost in 86. So there was a lot of pressure building on that side of it as well. But they came back very strong in 87 and 88 as well, right? So, but I think it was a powerful game. I think played at an unbelievable pace, but and the skill element was just huge, you know, and. It turned out to be the last day for Jimmy Barry Murphy in terms of a Cork jersey. He didn't tell us beforehand, but after the game, he's quick to say, lads, I'm out of here now. I've had enough. And by memory of that was when Kevin Hennessy got his goal in the second half. Jimmy Barry Murphy is down on his knees with his hands to the air to Hill 16 to say, this is our day. And probably knowing himself, he'll never probably get a better occasion. And kind of very quickly afterwards, Jimmy had said to us all, look, my time is up. I've been there a long time. And, you know, so he was there since 73 in football and getting into and the hurling side of it. So he'd given an unbelievable service to Cork GAA. We probably would have felt there was another 2 to 3 years in the man, but Jimmy knew himself that it was time to go. And that's probably what came out of 1986. And, you know, Tom Cashin was the captain, and Tom and Jim, brothers, played as well. Like, and you look at the history of their club, Blackrock, and the players that they provided for Cork over the years in terms of, but I'd say a proud effort their own father as well, Mick Cashman, who played with Cork for many, many years as well. So there was an awful lot attached to that day, and it was a brilliant win for Cork. Again, 1990. Cork didn't really show much form in 1990 in terms of that they were going to be a team to get to an All-Ireland series. I was lucky enough to, as I mentioned previously in my talk with you, that I captained the Glen Rovers team in 1989 to win the county title. So part of the process in Cork at the time was your club then would give you the opportunity to be nominated as the captain of an inter-county team or nominate the person that was involved. So I was privileged that my club, Glen Rovers, gave me the opportunity to say, Tomás, we want you to be captain of Cork in 1990. Now, the key thing here was there was 3 or 4 of us were not involved in 1989 with Cork, right? 88 and 89 were 2 bad years for Cork. We weren't involved. But Canon O'Brien, famous man that I mentioned, he came in as manager, brought Gerald MacCarthy in as coach. And Gerald MacCarthy, one of the most stylish hurlers that Cork ever produced, probably one of the toughest characters that Cork ever produced. And he was coaching us at that time. And like, he had captained the Cork to an All-Ireland series. He had captained under Cork under 21s. His pedigree was just incredible. He was a mighty, mighty player. And we were all gobsmacked by this. And the canon came and he approached me. He says, look, I want you to come back on the panel. I'm bringing other guys that have not been on the panel for the last 2 years back into the fray again, because he says, I believe in you guys. I see what you've done for Cork. I think there's more in you. I think I can get it out of you. So if you could kind of picture 1990, there was no pre-Christmas training. There was no gyms. There was no dietitians. There was no strength and conditioning. And our training, the majority of it was done on the field of play. And your running was done on the field of play. And but he set an unbelievable standard, because the first day or the first training session that we met, the canon arrived down outside the grounds in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, where we were all waiting to get access into the ground. And all you could hear was the screech of the brakes, a lovely fancy Ford Granada car with the alloy wheels, that if you had a set of alloy wheels back then, you were really, really in business. And but as he pulled in, he kind of pointed to us all, have a look at the registration plate. 90C27. Right? 90 for the year, C for Cork, and we've won 26 titles. This is going to be our 27th. So he set the bar, he set the standard. Now into training, now get down to business. And he was tough. He was tough. There was nights when our training was very much concentrating on hitting the ball on the ground, off the air, keeping the ball out of the hand, left and right, keeping it going in the direction that it came. He controlled 15 cylinders and you'd be in your position and the open space of Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and you could do this for 40, 45 minutes. And it was incredible. Ball bounced in front of you, pulling it on the ground, shots at goal, 2 goalkeepers in place. And it was incredible. But there was nights when he wasn't happy, and he'd just have a little gear bag over his shoulder, and he actually kind of said to us, like, you know, preparation wise, it's not good enough. Called all the bags, 15 slitters into the bag, walked out of Páirc Uí Chaoimh, down the tunnel, into the car and off, and left us all in the field of play. And you could hear the screech of the car again going up the road. And here we're all left in limbo. What do we do now? So a bit of crack, a bit of banter, fellas. We go in, tug out. And so 15 minutes later, you'd hear the car was coming again. So back he came. I'll give you one more chance. I'll give you one last chance. So then you went at it, hammering tongs for the next 30 minutes just to keep him happy. But that was his way of getting the best out of us. We were doing particularly well while he was there, but he felt there was more. So he kind of threw a spanner in the works by heading off. And so, but we got to know him particularly well. So that kind of stood to us in a good way in 1990, because he knew guys had it in them. He knew guys could deliver. And like the Munster final day against Tip was just a powerful day, because we were total underdogs again against Tip. I was out injured that day as captain. Teddy McCarthy was out injured at that day, and we had there was a couple of newcomers coming into the fray, and I suppose none better than the performance of Mark Foley, who got 2-7 that day in Thurles as centre forward, and just a terrific performance. And I think that victory gave us the belief that we were going to be the team to beat in 1990, even though some of the press would have felt Galway, because they were coming on with a very, very strong team as well. But 1990 day was incredible for me personally, because you're captain of the team. You're in that dressing room and you are kind of, as captain, a bit of onus on you to get fellas going, get riled up and give them the clap in the back and shake their hands and stuff like that as well. But kind of from a personal level for me, my late father, was told in advance of the final he couldn't go to the match. He had an issue with his heart, and Dr. Fennell in the CUH in Cork says to him, I'm telling you, you need to stay at home. His own doctor was Dr. Con Murphy, who was team doctor of Cork. So in the lead up to that, he'd called me to say, Tomás, I told you, giving your father instructions. He's not to go to the match. He's on a bit of medication. It would be too much for him and stuff like that. But the funny thing about it, my father wasn't taking that. I'm going to Croke Park. No one is going to stop me. And if I have my final day there, that's where I want to be. So, like, that's playing on my mind in terms of where you're at as well. So when you do win and you get the bit of victory, all you're thinking, I hope the man is all right. I hope he survived, because it was a cracking game. And, you know, people might be listening to this now and saying I'm biased for Cork and stuff like that, but it was an unbelievable day. We had brilliant performances, and it was magnificent goals scored, magnificent points scored, and Galway, to their credit as well, were absolutely brilliant on the day as well. And I mentioned previously we were 5 points down at half time, you know, and we didn't play well. We went 7 points down 10 minutes into the second half, and you would think that it was all over for Galway. I mean, that they had the match won. But somewhere, that speech that I mentioned in the dressing room at half time, which Kevin had a bit of wisecrack, but the Biden memory is the cannon out before we went out that door that day, on his knees in the dressing room with a Cork jersey over his arm. Do it for your family, do it for yourselves, do it for me, and he in tears. So you were ready to actually break down the doors to get out for the second half. And it turned us, and he was able to do that, and he turned us completely. I had a shocking first half. Kevin, as I said, had a shocking first. Other fellas had a shocking first half. Jim Cashman gets an awful lot of slagging because Joe Cooney had scored 1-5 in that first half period as well. So if you're looking for guys that were in that shower to get those ice buckets of water thrown at, you don't have to go too far from the names that I mentioned. And but that was inspirational. That little on the cameo, on the knees, crying with the red jersey. This is what it's about, the blood and bandage of Cork. Go out and win the game. And we did. When you win at that stage, and it's a feature now, which is a pity that it happened, your supporters are left on the field to play. So once the final whistle goes, you get an opportunity to shake hands with your opposing player, Tony Keady, at my stage. God rest him, an unbelievable player, and what a legend for hurling. And I was privileged to be able to say I played on him, and he marked me, and we had great battles over that period of time in '86 and '90. But as soon as you got the chance to shake hand and maybe exchange jersey, the field just exploded with bodies climbing over fences, climbing everywhere they can to get down from the stands to come out on the field to play. People trying to rob your hurley, people clapping you on the back as if, like, you know, it was concrete, and you've been lifted up in shoulders. And I can remember some of my own club mates and older guys, Denny Murphy and stuff like that. They phoned me out and lifted me up on the shoulder, and you're on the field of play, and there you're looking around, and there's all your other comrades, and they're all up on people's shoulders, and it's incredible feeling. And that's before you get into the area where you have stewards to protect you before you go for your presentation to the cup up the steps of the home stand. Marvelous feeling. It was a very emotional day, and look, but it wasn't just about me. It was about the team. It was about the Cork support. It was about everybody. Like, there's no one individual can win a game. It's about team, and they say in a team together everybody achieves more. So that day was incredible performance, team performance, one of the best team performances I've seen from a Cork group in terms of all levels throughout the field. And when I did accept the trophy, although I did have in my mind, because when I went around in the parade and you're leading the parade, I had a feeling in my mind, you know, where family were and stuff like that, and I was looking out for him, didn't see him. I saw my uncle and my aunt where they were seated, and but I didn't see himself, right? But when I got the cup, what I was saying, I hope he's all right. I hope I see him after the game. But when we got back to the dressing room, high security around the place, tight dressing room, and nobody being left in. But there was one man appeared, and that was Dad. Super memory. How he got in there, I don't know. But he got in there, threw his arms around me, and he says, I'll see you later on. So that was good. That was good. Brings a tear to my eye now, but look, he passed on a couple of years later, but he was a proud man. Very proud. He was proud of everybody that was involved that day, but he was particularly proud of me. And I know that. You're inside the dressing room and the place is mad, and McDonough's inside there, and there's interviews being done, and this being done, and the place is just wild, and here he comes. And look, I think it was great. And he didn't make the banquet afterwards, right? He went away, he had a few pints with my mother, and he was in bed early, and he was able to relax. And but he took it all in. He took it all in. And that's a massive memory, because when he's the man that brought you out the door the first day to take you to hurling, and then you've achieved the ultimate in sport, and he's there to witness it again. And I'm sure, look, I'm no different to anybody else around the country who has had that experience as well themselves. I'm sure any captain or any player, their family are very, very proud. And for me and for my club, Glen Rovers, it was just a massive, massive occasion. And to go to the banquet that night, and there's Jack Lynch to meet you at the banquet, and you're having a bit of crack, and the wit that was in Gáis, John Fitzgibbon, who was an incredible player as well. Like, even after the match inside in the dressing room, all he wanted to know was who put the onion in the Cannon's bag at halftime to make him cry, you know. And the wit that was there, and the slagging that Kevin Hennessy was getting about that story, putting up the hand, who were the other two Cannon, right? I mean, they spread like wildfire at that stage, right? So you go back to your hotel and you get ready and you go to the team banquet that night, and look, great occasion. I suppose the big thing then was the talk of a double started, because Cork had achieved the first part of it, and the next couple of weeks then were, you know, and a great friend of mine, Teddy McCarthy, who had been part of the 1990 success, was part of the actual football team as well. So it was beginning to build in Cork that this could be possible, that there could be a double on, even though the opponents, Meath, were worthy contenders as well. But the hype and the build up to that then was immense over the hurlers were able to go in and enjoy the crack, and enjoy the go to clubs and have the banter and have the fun and have the parades. And Teddy McCarthy had to go back to training, and Dennis Walsh as well, to be fair. Dennis Walsh was part of that setup as well. So Dennis was a dual player as well. And I think it's only fair to mention him as well, that he had to go back to training and get involved in the football setup as well, which was probably hard for them, but they had a bigger pitch ahead of them. Coming up to the All-Ireland Football Final, I get a call from the Secretary of the Cork County Board, Frank Murphy. He says, look, we'll get you tickets for the football. We'd like to see you to come as captain, and will you throw the Liam MacCarthy Cup into the boot of your car as well, and while you're coming on the way, because he says we might need it at some stage on the Sunday night. And I put it into a black plastic bag, put it into the boot of the car, talk no more about it, right? Went to the match, kind of 10, 15 minutes to go. The match was very much in the balance, you know, we're Cork going to get off the line. You're looking down from the stands, and the tension is just incredible of what could be achieved. And you're seeing Larry Tompkins limping around the field. You finding afterwards that he played on for maybe 20 minutes with a cruciate ligament, but was an inspirational figure. And you suddenly feel that we're getting closer to get off the line. This is becoming a reality. This is becoming a football success. And I am, the Canon, I think, had been in the team hotel the night before, saying mass for the players as well. There was an unbelievable bond between both parties at that stage, wishing them well throughout the week in terms of the hurlers, best of luck to the footballers. So there was a never say die attitude in that. And that was probably down to one man as well, which we'd call Mr. Cork Football, which is Billy Morgan himself. What a character. And I'd love to be in the dressing room with him on a few occasions as well, because I'm telling you the stories about the Canon, but there's some famous ones with him as well. So, and it was terrific for him as manager to be able to say, yeah, he was the manager of that double team as well, and Larry is captain as well. So, starting gathering a bit of momentum. Tomás, we need you to go to the team hotel. We need to see you at the banquet tonight. We need to see you dressed up in your clobber, and we need Liam MacCarthy to be at the top table with the Sam Maguire. So then it started to filter in, and then your arrival back down on Monday. You had to get all the hurlers back into the city, into Barclay Street, while the footballers come down around McCurtain Street and around Barry's Corner, and you're looking at kind of the crowds and the masses, and then two teams go up to the stage together. Two teams are on stage together. Then there is an exchange of the Sam Maguire and the Liam MacCarthy, and I take the Sam Maguire, Larry takes the Liam MacCarthy, and we show it to the crowd. And we had a local channel at the time, I think Cork Multi-Channel, and they were covering it all live. And you had Gerald McCarthy and the Canon were inside the studio, and they were having a bit of crack and a bit of banter as well. Famous occasion, and you can't say it had to be the highlight of my career, certainly, So one massive cherished memories, and one I think that an awful lot of Cork people are really, really proud of that was achieved, And for the man, I don't think he's probably got the credit that he should deserve. For the likes of Teddy McCarthy to achieve what he achieved was just incredible. I mean, within a fortnight, he actually had won 2 All-Ireland medals, football and hurling. I don't know, will we ever see that day again? I did mention captain it's a lovely accolade to have. You probably get more of the credit than anybody, because you're the man that maybe has to take the MacCarthy Cup or be leading it, going to schools and going to functions and stuff afterwards. But I said it wasn't about me, because I knew the guys that I played with and soldiered with for years, right? And they were incredible guys. Joe Fitzgerald, John Fitzgibbon, Mark Foley, these guys, Shawnee O'Gorman, Dennis Walsh, John Considine back in defence, Jim Cashman, Dennis Walsh, Kieran McGuckin, he captained the team in 1990 in the Munster final because I was injured. And but we had an unbelievable spirit. Shawnee McCarthy, Brendan O'Sullivan midfield. And we didn't have, and I'd be the first to put my hand up, I wasn't the best hurler in the world. There was a few other fellas on the team weren't the best hurlers in the world. I single out Brendan O'Sullivan, and I single out Shawnee McCarthy in midfield. And I said to myself, geez, and Shawnee sometimes maybe wing back. These guys knew how to play the game, and they knew how to move the ball. And the secret of our success in those times were get the ball in as quick as you can, get the ball into the inside line as quick as you can. When you had forwards like Sean O'Leary, Jimmy Barry Murphy, John Fitzgibbon, Kevin Hensey, Geoff Fitzgerald, Tony O'Sullivan, get the ball, let the ball do the work. And we had an unbelievable emphasis on ground hurling. So Shawnee McCarthy was one of the best balls. When the ball just hit the ground, it mightn't be 2 inches above the blade of grass, but my God, could he hit it. And you knew it was travelling, and you knew it was coming in your direction, and you knew it was going to get in to the square very, very quickly. And we had a guy like Brendan O'Sullivan back then in 1990. No fear, no dread. First All-Ireland final. My God, he'd tear into her. He'd tear her. Absolutely guy, break hurleys, but a brilliant guy. And we had the balance, and we had the balance in the team. It was very good. We had height, we had physical strength, we had brilliant ball players, none better than Tony O'Sullivan. What performances that man would given for Cork in terms of 5 or 6 points a game. But we had unbelievable guys to get goals. Unbelievable. John Fitzgibbon, we was calling him Scalacci. Kevin Hensey never failed to give you 1 or 2 goals on match day. And we had Mark Foley contributing on that day as well. So it it was a massive team performance. And look, Galway would feel themselves as well that maybe they had their opportunities in the day. We got a bit lucky. Key decision on a shot by Martin Naughton that hit Joe Cunningham in the nose, went out for 65, was way wide. We went down the field and got a point out of it. Suppose sometimes you make your own luck, and certainly we had a bit of luck on that day as well, and kind of put our hands up as well and say, yeah, it was a day when everything went right for us. I'd have to give two, right, because I'm going to put my club on the first one, because the fame of Glen Rovers and the history of Glen Rovers, we hadn't won a county title since 1976. And prior to that, the club had done 8 in a row, that had done 4 in a row. It was massive successful in a very dominant period in Cork hurling, and had brought unbelievable characters to the Cork GAA. So 1989, we had lost the county final in 1988. 1989, we got an opportunity to win the county championship, and I was captain. And like the scenes in Blackpool that night will always be etched in my mind as well, because we did go over the Christie Ring Bridge. We did meet Jack Lynch. We did parade all the way through Blackpool. There was bonfires. We went into our own clubhouse there, and it was a special moment. But then to get the call to say you're going to get an opportunity to be captain of Cork in 1990. So, and then how 1990 panned out, they're probably the two moments for me, to be honest with you. And 1990 was special in terms of like, when you get to All-Ireland Final Glory Day and you have that success match with your club the previous year, you know, it was just a very, very good period. Very good period. Now, characters that I played against, people that maybe I came up against, marked. I mentioned Tony Keady. I mentioned Pat Fox in Tipperary. I kind of slag him at times to say that I made him the best corner forward in the country, because he marked me as a cornerback in a Munster Championship final in 1985, and I got a few scores off him. So I kept reminding him afterwards. I said, that's why you moved from cornerback, because I destroyed you. So you became the best corner forward after that. But my early days against Kilkenny, my first baptism of fire in 1983 All-Ireland Final, I came up against a guy called Dick O'Hara. It was my first day in Croke Park, my first All-Ireland Final. And I kind of christened him as Grizzly Adams, because he had a big beard and a big moppy here, and he had a hurling helmet. It was like a cyclist helmet that only came across halfway across the top of the head. So the first ball that I caught, as I caught it, I went around him, but I dropped the slur. But there was a little bit of blood coming from the top of the head and stuff like that. So it was a real kind of welcome to Croke Park feeling as well. He was and I met him in later years, and we had a great crack about this and stuff like that. He was a real tough opponent. You'd break hurleys off of him, he'd say, come on, go again, get another one, you know. And we played in a couple of league matches. And another man that I thought was just powerful for Kilkenny as well, when I got the opportunity to go and play centre forward, was Joe Henderson. Oh my God, what a player. What a guy for Kilkenny hurling, but one of our toughest opponents ever. You know, when you go and you mark that man, or he marks you, my God, you know you're in the game. He was incredible. So they're kind of two games and and the players that I would have come up against, you know. So very, very strong opponents. I was reading recently where Christie Ring had come up with a statement to say, look, it wasn't all about his greatness, right? I mean, and talking about the past, he says, there will be future stars of hurling well gone beyond me. And like, how right he was. And when you look what we're seeing now, you know, and I mightn't be the greatest lover of the modern game compared to where I played it, but you got to accept it. It's a new process. It's a new focus. Players are at different levels of fitness. But one thing that you can't take away from the players, the skill level has just gone up an unbelievable notch. And when we look at the quality of Patrick Horgan, Joe Canning, TJ Reid, Henry Shefflin, Seamus Cannon, Owen Kelly, you could keep naming them forever, and what they're bringing to the game and what they've brought to the game in the last number of years. So out there for the younger generation, there is a duty of care and a duty of responsibility on us older guys and the guys that have just finished the game to make sure that we bring through another era of these guys. And I continuously say to my club, let's concentrate on the skills. Let's concentrate on the fundamentals of movement for the younger generation. Make sure that they can puck the ball off the left side as well as they can do off the right side. Don't be afraid to say they can puck the ball on the ground. Don't be afraid they can play it to catch the ball off the ear. More of the hurling skills, less of the more physical attributes. Time will come when that will actually filter into their program, filter into their career path and stuff like that. But it's very hard to tell a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old how to hold the hurley right or what he should be doing in the game in terms of skill. That has to be brought in from a very, very early age. And I think if we can do that, that's the only bit of advice I can say to guys, the concentration. And it's, I look at my own clubmate and I see him on a regular basis and the dedication he's putting into the game in Patrick Horgan in terms of his free taking, in terms of his skill level. There are times when you just have to give him a kick up the arse and say, Pat, get out of the field, go home, rest. You need to go home. You're in the field too often. He's there with a bag of balls. He's practicing frees. He's practicing penalties. And like, he brings all the kids with him and they all want to do the crossbar challenge with him and they want to take a sideline ball from the sideline and they want to go, they want to take a free as near as the corner flag they can hand and then he'll hit it off his left hand and you'll have a range of 7 or 8 guys behind him doing exactly the same. And which is fantastic, absolutely brilliant to see, and more that we can see of that in the GAA. People and the younger generation will want to be the next star. And I've always said the stars of our future will come from our clubs. The club game is so important to get now the right coaches and the schools. The schools are paramount to where we're at. The love of the schools is so much for me because I had a great history with my own school in North Monastery. Incredible. Legendary figures that went through that school that came out of them that became synonymous names with Cork hurling. And that's has to be nurtured. Nothing else can take place of that. Nothing else. Commercialism within the GAA, professionalism within the GAA can actually take away from what we have then and what we need to continue into the future. The highlight of my career would have to be 1990 in terms of what followed because I think winning was brilliant. But as a person, I think it set up me incredibly well as well, because I think for my own personal development, it was massive because I got to meet so many people. I got to get in front of so many people. There was no issues dealing with press, and at sometimes you kind of say a bit of trust in the press and the media in terms of like getting interviews from players and stuff like that as well. That is very good for a player himself. It's very good for his own development and his own self-esteem, without being taken out of context. And like, I think 1990 certainly brought me to another level in terms of my own self, in terms of my personal development, in terms of my own career, and that was all down to the GAA, to my club, to my family, and to my county. So, but look. It's not about me. It's about the game and about the future, and it's about what we have and that we need to cherish. And look, we're in the past now. 1990 is gone, and all those years, they're all gone. It's time to look forward, put it to bed. It's time to look forward to the stars of the future and embrace what they're bringing to us now, because I see it in my own club. I see it in my own county now, the level of players that are coming through, and we need to bring that to the next level now to get senior success. We needed to bring it to the next level or underage to get underage success. But I'm sure that's no different to what's going on in Tipperary, Kilkenny, Galway, Wexford, Waterford. As long as we can keep the focus in that direction, I'd be all right with the highlights. There'll be somebody else will take the credit for new highlights, which I'm sure you get the opportunity to do over the years.